So we can start.
I'm just going to grab.
The other thing you should know, these.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour et bienvenue. Thank you for joining our meeting of the CPATA Board of Directors. We're here in Toronto, and I'd like to thank our board colleague, Andrew Currier, CEO of PCK Intellectual Property, and his organization for generously hosting today's meeting. Thank you so much, Andrew. It's just been wonderful. Your space is amazing. Your people are amazing. So thank you so much. I want to begin by acknowledging that CPATA is the federal regulator of patent agents and trademark agents, with staff and licensees living and working throughout the country. Our board colleague, Eris Almeida-Cote, will deliver the land acknowledgement en français today. Eris.
McRich. L'île de Tortue, en Amérique du Nord, est un territoire habité par les autochtones.
Island Duden is a place inhabited by indigenous. The place of our meeting today is the Madamesa, the name of the indigenous people and the chance that we have today to work on these territories fill us with gratitude. Since the CPATA, which is the College of Patent Agents and Trademark Agents, we had to recognize that the concepts of property of ideas can differ from one culture to the other, and that our world system of intellectual property can be not always protected, and we have to promote its protection, and they can protect a very important traditional knowledge and cultural expressions that are indigenous. So we are meeting today, and we will start our regulation work. I would like to invite everybody to envisage how we can contribute in the framework of our mandate for the reconciliation and with indigenous people who are the guardians, traditional guardians of those lands. Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you, Eris. CPATA's board of directors and staff met yesterday for a strategic planning session. This is something that we do every year to make sure that we're maintaining focus on the right touch regulatory approach to fulfill the legislated mandate of the CPATA Act. Some of the key strategic areas we discussed include what success looks like for the college. The mandate outlined by the Government of Canada through the CPATA Act is extensive. We've adopted a series of regulatory objectives and a strategic framework for the next 2 years to document our key priorities. We talked about CPATA's vision to support Canada's IP ecosystem in both the short and long term. The discussion included how improved clarity around professional competency will contribute to a stronger profession. We talked about how improving pathways into the profession can lead to enhanced public access to competent, affordable IP services. We talked about how a transparent and fair professional responsibility program with both proactive educational elements and reactive complaints and discipline mechanisms will increase public confidence in agent services. And we talked about how CPATA will strive to ensure that every individual, regardless of who they are, has the same opportunities and is understood and treated fairly. The CPATA board and staff bring a wealth of diverse professional and lived experiences to help us think about how the college can best fulfill its regulatory mandate, thereby successfully playing our part in advancing Canada's IP and innovation strategy. We also took the opportunity to do some budget planning for 2024. The annual budget will be developed and presented for approval at the December meeting and will be made available as part of the board public meeting package. As a startup regulator, CPATA is committed to staying agile and open to learning from our experiences and adjusting as required. We know we need to build reserves to be prepared for complex regulatory matters that could risk harm to the public and for operational multi-year planning and building. CPATA staff have a busy fall ahead. CEO and Registrar Judith Straczynski will be speaking at IPIC's 2023 annual conference in Winnipeg on October 13th to share information about CPATA's work to date and our upcoming priorities. Director of Registration and Education and Deputy Registrar Jen Slobodkin and I will join Judah at the conference. We look forward to connecting with IPIC's new and returning directors and congratulating all of those that are joining the board. We also look forward to future opportunities to collaborate on areas of shared interest. Jen will also be presenting at the annual CNAR conference, that's the Canadian Network of Agencies for Regulation, on CPATA's experience building a new pan-Canadian professional regulator. It is no small feat to set up a professional regulatory organization from the ground up during a global pandemic and with no startup funding or infrastructure, and build an independent governance model to set the foundation for regulatory success. We'll be cheering you on, Jen, as you share our experiences with fellow professional regulators. On behalf of the CPATA board, sincere best wishes to all Class 3 agents in training, writing the qualifying exams this year and taking this important next step in their careers. The trademark agent qualifying exams took place this week, and the patent agent qualifying exams will take place in late October. This will be the final year of the legacy exams, since CPATA is undertaking a redevelopment process as part of its competency initiative. Now that CPATA has set standards for entry-level skills in technical competency profiles, we've started the work of aligning the exams with those standards. Starting in 2024, the qualifying exams will be split into two parts: a knowledge component that tests theoretical understanding and a skills component that tests the application of that knowledge. This is an exciting change designed to enhance transparency and fairness in the exam process. We've already seen a 160% increase in Class 3 agents in training since CPATA is coming into force. So we know that there's interest in joining the profession, and CPA aims to remove unnecessary barriers for those wishing to enter the field. These steps should help build a sustainable profession and enhance public access to competent, affordable IP services. CPATA will be seeking participation and input from the profession and other stakeholders in the coming months as we undertake development of the new exams. We rely on the subject matter expertise of the profession and others in the IP ecosystem, and we encourage you to read CPATA's newsletter and follow CPATA on social media for any engagement opportunities. This concludes my opening remarks. Thank you for listening. We'll now turn to today's business, and that begins with approval of the agenda. Is there anything anyone wishes to change or add to our agenda? Looking around the board and seeing none, that's great. So this agenda will be accepted as presented. I'm going to call now for conflicts of interest. Board members, you've all had an opportunity to review the package and all of the materials, and I'd like to ask if there's anyone who needs to declare a conflict of interest regarding any matters on the agenda. I'm looking around and seeing none, so that's great. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. So consent agenda matters are proposed to be dealt with by unanimous consent and without debate. That means, though, that directors can seek clarification or ask questions without removing a matter from the consent agenda. Any director can request a consent agenda item be moved out of consent and into the regular agenda by notifying the chair or the CEO prior to the meeting, or by addressing the issue at the meeting. So, Judah, no one approached me to take anything out. Did they approach you?
No.
No? And does anyone have anything they want to remove? All right, we're good. So the consent agenda consisted of the minutes of our May 26th board meeting, the report of the Investigations Committee, the report of the Discipline Committee, Professional Responsibility Program report, report of the Registration Committee, report of the Governance Committee, and a memo regarding the Registration Committee proposed revisions to its terms of reference. So just for everyone's edification, that's all of the robust materials that were in our consent agenda that I will take as read. And resulting from those materials, we have a motion. Be it resolved that A, the minutes of the May 26, 2023 board meeting are approved, and B, the revised terms of reference of the Governance Committee and Audit and Risk Committee as set out in the Governance Committee report are approved, and C, the Registration Committee terms of reference be amended to allow for up to 7 members. So I have that motion is now on the table. Can I have a board member make that motion? Leonora, thank you. Can I have someone second the motion? Tom, thank you. The motion is now on the table. I'd like to invite discussion, including the chair of our governance committee, to potentially talk about the changes to the terms of reference to the governance and audit committee as set out in your report. Karima?
Thank you. I'm assuming everybody's read the materials. We did have a discussion around adding a new member to our governance committee to account for skills that we think are going to be necessary. And so we had a discussion at our board meeting in camera yesterday. And so there will be a formal motion around that. We amended the terms of reference to have our chair participate as a voluntary member ex officio. And we also discussed whether we needed to add additional members to the nominations committee, the registration and nominations committee, the discipline committee. And we discussed the board education, which we will be having later this afternoon. Did anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
Okay, so is there any further discussion on the motion as read? No, all right, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, as Karima alluded to, are committee appointments. So the board met in camera to discuss all of the committee appointments. Judah, do you want to read them into the record?
Sure.
Quite a list.
The motion is in 3 parts. Be it resolved that A, Leonora Hoyka be appointed to the Governance Committee effective immediately. B, Sam Langton, Guy Joubert, and Susan Boulte be appointed to the Discipline Committee effective immediately until January 31st, 2026. And C, Natalie DePolson, representative of the Office of the Registrar of Trademarks, be appointed to the Registration Committee effective immediately.
Thanks so much. So could I have a board member make that motion? Elise, thank you. And second, Andrew, thank you. The motion is on the table. I'd like to invite any discussion, questions, concerns. Yeah, you're recusing yourself from that vote, Leonora. That makes good sense. Thank you. All right. So with that being said, it doesn't look like we've got any further discussion other than the robust discussion we've already had and in support of the motion. All in favor of this motion? Great. Any opposed? No, and we have 1 abstention for the record. Thank you. So that motion too is carried. The next motion is relating to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the report of the Audit and Risk Committee, which again was included in your package. There is a motion here. Do you want to do that, Jude, or do you want me to read it in? I'll go ahead. Be it resolved that the investment policy and financial reserves policy are approved. So could I have someone make that motion? Tom, a seconder? Jeff, perfect. So the motion is now on the table. I'd like to invite any questions or discussion for just to add a little bit of color to it. I did attend the meeting of the audit committee, and there was really good, thorough, robust discussion about the need for these 2 policies, how they would best be worded, how, in fact, we took a bit of a deep dive and thought about how would we actually implement those policies. And so over a couple of meetings, we made some tweaks to make sure that we think we got them just right. So I sure want to open any debate or discussion on that, though. Okay, well, with thanks to Bob Clemondan and the other members of the audit committee, a lot of good work was done here. So thank you so much. I'll take, I'm going to ask now for approval of that motion. All in favor? Perfect. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion too is carried. Next item on our agenda is the June 30th, 2023 financial statements and financial highlights, as well as the legislative compliance memo. This is a for information item. You've all had an opportunity to read the excellent materials that management put together for us. Judah, is there anything you'd like to add or comment on? Balanced on a Kleenex box.
That was my,
You got it? Okay.
apologies. So just wanted to point out for those who might be watching that the College of Patent Agents and Trademark Agents posts its financial updates quarterly in the board materials. These are available to the public and that they are quite detailed in the way that we have described our balance sheet, our assets, our liabilities, our revenues, and they are broken down by program area in quite great detail. And so we are very transparent about where our funds are going and why. They are also point-in-time snapshots, and so it's important to understand that there are pieces that move depending on the cyclical nature of our work. For example, exams happen at a particular time of year, so the exam revenue isn't necessarily going to be flat. As it turns out, for right now, we are under budget in revenue by about $35,000 year to date. We expect that we will be short on revenue, due in part to changes within the demographics of the profession, and in part due to some of the bylaw changes that we implemented earlier this year, which changed some of the fee requirements and when we will be collecting fees. So we will be making up some of that in the next year. We do have about 90 Class 1 agents fewer than budgeted, but that was an expected potential outcome from requiring mandatory insurance for the first time this year. And we had actually cushioned in a reserve to account for these types of shifts. So we are more or less on schedule, but with the bylaws coming into force, there have been some additional changes, at least to the balance sheet. The exam changes have also resulted in some decrease in revenue. We expect that the 2024 offering of the exam will, given that it is going to be tied to our competency profiles that we launched to great interest in the profession, that will be where many people will be starting to write or continuing to write their exams. The expenses are tracking close to or better than budget. We're controlling expenses where possible, and discipline items that were budgeted for this year, some of them due to external factors may be extending into 2024. So again, we may see some changes year by year as we continue to build out and see our experiences on the claims side. And so anyone who is interested in learning more about CPATA's financial statements, the health of the regulator, can check out these materials. They are publicly available online. They are in our board materials as well. We have our year-end financials available online at all times, year by year. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Judah. All right, since that was an information item and we've now been provided with the information, I am going to close off that item and move to the next item on our agenda, which is other business. Do any board members have other business to declare?
Yeah, so this is something I just raised yesterday in advance of the meeting, and that is just to be sure about the dates for the upcoming meetings. And if any of those dates change, we should be sure. I mean, obviously the board has to know, but the public needs to know that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's something that when we move into in camera, we're going to just talk about what meetings are required to be perhaps at certain times or in certain locations. We just want to kind of look at the rules around that, Leonora, and try to get a schedule built out probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll try to get a schedule built out as far in advance as we can, as you said, for board members to get into their calendars and also to make sure that we're providing public notice. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, any other business? Okay, I am going to ask someone to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Karima, thank you. A seconder, Leonora, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, I officially adjourn our meeting and the board will move in camera. Thank you.